Remember the old introducing features I used to write in the Wrestler magazine way back when? I'm going to introduce you to Kayla Sparks on the latest edition of the Outdated Wrestling Hour. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Bob Smith, formerly with Pro Wrestling Illustrated and all these other magazines, and this is the Outdated Wrestling Hour. How are you all today? This show's going to be a little different. I'm going to interview an up-and-coming star as opposed to an old-timer or an old-time person who covered wrestling. It's somebody I met in Albany, and her name is Kayla Sparks. She's a rising, obviously, woman wrestler, but she's got a really interesting story, and again, I kind of want to have some young people on the show because it's the juxtaposition between new and old, young and old, whatever you want to call it. It's just interesting to me to pick the brains of somebody who's in the business right now. And Kayla's definitely in the business. And she was just seen in a #1 film. We'll get into all this in a little while. Now, you're going to say, hey, where was Bob 20 minutes from now? I'll tell you where Bob was. I'm going to put Bob on at the end of the show. I got a little creative and set up a scenario, right? And I don't know what to say about it other than I think it's funny. It's different. Bob 20 minutes from now discovers the wife of a classic 60s wrestler. And it's unlike anything I've ever done before, but I'm going to tack it on to the end of the show as opposed to the beginning. And I'm going to put it on after the closing theme. So if you're not in the mood for something goofy, just shut it off. But if you're in the mood for something wacky, I enjoyed putting this thing together. It just hit me one day to try it and get a little bit podcasty. And I think it's funny. And I hope you'll think it's funny too. And here's a contest. The first person that listens to the parody, all right? The first person who hears this and can tell me and write to me at outdatedwrestling@gmail.com. If you can tell me who the tag team was that I'm parodying here, okay? In other words, it's kind of a mock 60s tag team, a parody of them. If you can tell me who the tag team was, and if you can tell me who the musician was that I'm mocking in the last segment, let me know. You'll win a prize. I'm going to give away a International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame t-shirt that I purchased with my own money, okay? But I'm going to give it to one lucky, and it's size XL, okay? That's my size. Yeah, I'm a tub. But anyway, there you go. So it's going to be a funny ending, I hope, and I hope you enjoy it, and I also hope that maybe one of you out there can win a t-shirt if you can figure out my obtuse humor. But a lot of stuff's been going on. But enough of my yakking. I'm going to do the usual commercial announcement, and then we're going to bring on Kayla Sparks. I've been waiting to talk to her for a couple of months now, and it's she's an engaging and effervescent person. I think she's got everything it takes. Look at it as an introducing feature. If I had known her then, she would have gotten a feature right off the bat. I think she's good. I think she's got charisma. I think she's got everything it takes to be a star in professional wrestling, and I'm going to let her know that when we speak in a little while. In any event, here's a commercial announcement for the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, and we will be back in just a minute or two. Well, it's sort of kind of been in the news lately. We want you to know all about it. Recently, the Outdated Wrestling Hour podcast with Bob Smith has joined the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. I'm really glad to be part of this team, and you can hear the podcast virtually anywhere the podcasts are offered. Such great shows like the Wrestling Memory Grenade, Regional Wrestling, is the Wrestling Stoop with Bob Rube. Gene Jackson's another great host. You can hear him on the Retro Wrestling Review, which looks back at the classic days of USWA, and the brand new show, Dangerous Conversations with Doug Gilbert, featuring, well, Doug Gilbert, one of the great Memphis wrestlers of all time. Also on the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, Dave Dynasty and his long-standing hit podcast, Wrestling Nostalgia, featuring an A-list bunch of professional wrestlers you never know who you're going to hear speaking with Dave. And of course, a serious bent on the WWA, and I love that. There's DG's Puro Wrestling Academy. Join host Dan Giannetti as they travel back in time to discuss the history of wrestling in Japan. Through the decades, not just recently. You're going to want to check out that show. Monday Warfare, Raw vs. Nitro, looks at, well, the classic Monday Night Wrestling Wars. The Other Ship podcast describes itself as a pop culture podcast with a pro wrestling lean. Join a rotating group of co-hosts as they talk movies, sports, TV, food, and of course, wrestling. How can you beat that? And they got a whole mess of great special guests, too. Also on the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, you're going to want to check out the Captain's Corner, GrappleCon, TR Shocks the World, WCNN News, and a whole lot more. You'll never know what you're going to hear on the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Well, how do you find all this stuff, right? Simple. Start out by just logging on to WrestleCopia.com and let them take you on that ride, baby. To pro wrestling old and new. Hey guys, I've got some breaking news on the Dangerous Conversations with Doug Gilbert podcast on the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. It's now called, now dig this, Dangerous Conversations with Doug Gilbert and Tommy Rich. That's right, there's two major stars on that podcast every single week going forward. So be sure to check that one out. Okay, as longtime fans of me, which still boggles my mind, but a lot of you remember me from my magazine days, and you may remember that I worked for GC in London, which published Pro Wrestling Illustrated and The Wrestler. And every month in The Wrestler, we had a column called Introducing, where we found young talent and gave them a lot of times their first national hype. I remember doing Rob Van Dam before he was Rob Van Dam, and I remember doing Dustin Rhodes and giving Sid Vicious a plug, and a lot of people just at the onset of the careers. Now, this young lady you're about to speak with, well, she's not a rookie, but she's kind of breaking out right now in a bunch of different ways, and I got to meet her at the recent International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame Day in Albany about a month ago, Kayla?
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, about a month ago. And I had seen her work before, and I hadn't seen her for a long time, and now she's back. So please welcome a current wrestler. We never have current wrestlers on the show. It's Kayla Sparks. Thanks for showing up.
Oh, thanks for having me, Bob. I appreciate it. Thanks for everyone listening.
Well, meeting you, the thing was I never knew you were from the Capital District. And I
Yes.
grew up there too. When we met, we talked about that.
I know, what a small world.
It is a small world. It's crazy. How hard is it to start a wrestling career in, well, I came from a rural area, the Green County's, a lot of farmland and stuff like that. Where were you originally from?
I'm originally from my hometown, Schenectady or Rotterdam.
It is Schenectady.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So it's a small town, but it's both. It's like, suburban, rural, city. It's definitely, I don't live there now, but it's where I actually started wrestling. There was a wrestling school in Schenectady back then, but it's not there anymore where I got my start.
Oh, okay. And how long ago was this?
That was okay. So I'm showing my age. It was back in 2002. It was a wrestling school called 24/7 Wrestling, and I was 13 years old at the time.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Then we have to back up from there. Then you're 13. What attracted a young girl to pro wrestling?
I mean, back then it wasn't popular for like now it's super popular. Like wrestling has like expanded like throughout the years, but back then I used to get made fun of in school. Can you imagine that for a girl watching wrestling at my age? I used
Oh,
to get picked on and bullied because it was like, it wasn't cool for girls to like wrestling. So, and for me, I grew up since I was 3 years old. I remember sitting on the recliner watching Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, all those guys, like Ultimate Warrior growing up like as a toddler. And I was absolutely in love with wrestling since I was like born pretty much. And, as I got older, when the Attitude Era and everything came back, China was actually my huge inspiration. Like for me to actually be like, wow, I can actually do this. Like, look at her in the ring holding her own against the guys and the girls. So like for me, China was like my favorite. And that's what actually, she inspired me to start wrestling at such a young age. And I was the only, no surprise there. I was the only female wrestler, female student at the school at the time. But yeah, but they
I
took
can,
care of me. That was the nice thing about it, is that it was like a family vibe, and like everyone looked out for each other, which was really good.
I don't know if you notice I'm a little older than you were. And
No.
when I was in high school, wrestling was not cool at
I know.
all. If
Okay,
you
so we're on
talk
the same.
like
Yeah.
if me and my friend
Yeah.
Rick, who we used to go to the matches together, we
Yeah.
would talk about it like in secret. We would not let the girls know we were
Oh
wrestling
yeah.
fans because it turned them off completely.
Oh yeah, it wasn't mainstream as it is now. And like, yeah, I used to get made fun of like, oh, that stuff's fake. Why do you want to do that? I mean,
Mhm.
it's still kind of probably people still get the same. I mean, I know I hear it, the term fake or whatever. I can't stand that when people say that term, but I always get so defensive about it. But yeah, I totally get it with how, yeah, it was a
Oh,
secret back then to be a
it,
fan.
it it was female repellent. I mean, the girls I knew really hated it. I mean,
Hmm.
ew, one of those. It's gross and
Right.
grungy
Yeah. It was a turn
because
off. Yeah.
I go back to the 70s. So
Yeah.
it's like back then it was.
Right.
It wasn't nearly as colorful as it is now. It would be held
Oh,
in
yeah.
armories and playing arenas. It was almost like boxing, just a
Oh, yeah.
ring. No
Yeah.
music, no introductions, no nothing, just bing,
The
bing, and then
entertainment
they would
part of it.
wrestle.
Yeah.
Yes.
It
They
was
invented that other
wrestling
stuff
back
later.
then.
Yeah, it was wrestling. That's
Yeah.
right. And
Wrestling.
bloody matches and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So you graduate wrestling school, or at least you got your training at this wrestling school.
I did.
When is the first time you stepped into a professional ring?
It was, well, during my training, it was a few months after, I would say a couple months in. It was September 21st. I remember the date because I'm corny like that. September 21st, 2002 was my first match. And I remember it was so awesome because I had all of my peers, everyone in the locker room. It was a lumberjack match. So I actually have it on, I still have all my matches on my VHS tape. I'm showing my age. I used to have VHS tapes and then DVD. And then now there's YouTube. So some of them are on YouTube, some of them are on my Facebook, my social media, Instagram now. So you can see clips and stuff, which is great. But yeah, that was my first match back in '02, and it was a lumberjack match. And I won it. It was my trainer in a mask. That was that was who I got to wrestle.
Not
Yeah,
bad.
but it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that sounds great. A great way to start, anyway.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
now, how long did you wrestle? I understand that you got hurt.
I did, yeah.
How long did
Yep.
you wrestle before you got hurt?
So I got to wrestle because if I didn't get hurt, I would have still kept wrestling and hopefully, made it to WWE at some point. That's been my dream since I was a kid. But yeah, I started at 13. Obviously, I wasn't old enough to drive or anything yet to go to the wrestling show. So I got my working papers and I ended up working at the mall. And I remember I just had enough money to pay for my phone. Back then was my cell phone bill and gas and tolls to get to the wrestling shows. That was like my deal with my mom. My mom actually took me to all the shows. Can you imagine that at like 15,
No,
16
I can
years
imagine it.
old?
Yeah, sure.
And I remember a lot of like when I was in the locker room, some people would be intimidated, like, "Oh, she's way too young to be wrestling," or like. But everyone was like super supportive. Like there was some people that that would say, "Oh, she doesn't belong," like, well, they wouldn't say it, but you would feel like, she's just a kid. They don't, what does she know like about wrestling? But actually it was a lot of fun. I remember those years were my favorite because I got to learn so much and just being on the road and, meeting new people. And that's how I got to like, travel all around the Northeast. I got to wrestle like New Jersey, Connecticut. I went to Canada a few times to wrestle PWA over there. A lot of the places aren't around anymore. So if I say their names, I don't think they're they're around, but it was my experience I got to gain, and like it was a lot of fun just doing that. And I did that for, I would say, about 5 or 6 years, because I was 13 when I started. And I think I got my concussion, my first concussion, my severe injury was I think it was in 2007 or 2008 is when I got it. And then I got a second one, which it made it worse. And that was when I had to go to the ER. That was really scary. Yeah, that was really scary. My mom was in the audience and had to take me to the ER. Yeah, it was bad. I remember I blacked out during the match, and it was, accidents happen and stuff like that. But thankfully, I was kind of okay, like, after that. But then obviously I had to retire because the after effects, I don't know if anyone listening or if you've ever, I hope you never had a concussion, but it's the after effects you get from it, like all the vertigo where it just comes out of nowhere. And I don't even know if they really have I don't think they have like a cure for it. It just comes and goes. It's with your brain's injured. So it's like your brain's trying to heal. And there's it was scary for me because there would be times where I wouldn't know, like my equilibrium was off, but I didn't know, like I would lose my balance, and it would wake me up in the middle, sleeping, and I wouldn't know where I was, or felt like I was on a roller coaster. And that happened. It was on and off for at least 5 or 6 years. I had that. It was scary. I thought I was never gonna overcome it, but that's why I took I took a longer break than I needed to, because I went through some personal stuff, but that's another story. But yeah, I took a 14-year hiatus after that. So for 19, and then I came back the summer of 2021. I went through some heartbreak and a lot of hardship and stuff like that. But I said, what's the one thing that always made me happy? And it was always wrestling. And I said, let me try and give this see where it goes with my injury and stuff. It's been so long, 14 years, and I haven't looked back since. It was the summer of 2021 when I came back and got the ring rust off and had my first match. And that was amazing. I think it was July or August 2021. I had my first match after 14 years. So that was a lot.
That is an amazing story, though.
Yes. The comeback. Yes.
Well, first of all, it shows you're smart, because you know what? Concussions are nothing to mess with.
Yes. No. Yeah. Not at all.
I've known people who've suffered with them, and it's not,
it's not fun. Yeah.
you can't take head injuries lightly. There's stories of famous people who got into a car accident, got a concussion, and they're older, and they go, "Well, I'm going to go." A famous comedian named Steve Allen got a concussion. He went to bed and died. He just went to bed and it got him.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to be morbid, but no, you did the right thing. I think you did the right thing by taking all that time off. Well,
I know, and I didn't want to. Yeah. But
look at wrestlers today, like Bryan Danielson was off for a long time. These guys, Edge was off for a long time. It's smart to get yourself right before you even think about getting back in the ring.
I'm glad you mentioned their names, because actually when I was back, because I've done so much extra work for AEW and WWE, and I got a chance to actually talk to both of them because they went through it, and I got to share my story, and it was really still pinching myself that I actually got to talk to these guys about what happened to them and what happened to me. And so it was nice to share, that story and the comeback. That's why I always love, everyone loves a good comeback story. So, they're still doing it. I'm still doing it. So it's it's nice that there's happy, turnouts to something that was tragic, or you thought that was career ending, or with your health. So it's nothing to mess with.
So it sounds like the period between 2021 and now has kind of been a whirlwind, because what happened recently. Take us where you've been wrestling, organization names or anything like that, and then we'll get into the record that you set, being the first person to do something. And I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. Yes. So I came back. It was my first match back was at Beyond Wrestling, and that was I think I actually shared that story too, which was a crazy story. I got into my first car accident on the way to my wrestling match back after 14 years.
Get out!
And I remember, that was just crazy, right? I was my only accident I've ever been in. It was the other guy. It was a drunk driver. He hit someone before he hit me, and there was no way to avoid it. I said, "Well, this is the way I'm gonna go. This is it." When life flashed before your eyes, you're in a movie, and I was just oh my gosh, is this it? But thank the Lord, I was able to survive that, and my car was just enough okay to I asked the state trooper that was filling out the police report, accident report, and he was actually a wrestling fan, and I remember it was we were trying to like not joke about it, like because it was serious. And he was like, actually, he's like, I told him where I was going, and I was like, is my car okay to get to my? I was like, I got somewhere to be. Like I got, I got things to do. I got. I'm like, can I had so much that after that, it was like so much adrenaline, right? So I was just like, can I just want to get to my match. And that was like the only thing on my mind. I was just like laser focused on getting there. And I still had like an hour and a half left in my drive to get there. And I remember I messaged Drew. He was the promoter at Beyond Wrestling. He's like, are you okay? He's like, are you okay to wrestle? Like it was so funny because like all the girls and like everyone was like concerned, like, if I was okay, like, are you okay to wrestle? And I was like, they're like, I would have went back home. There's no way I would have came back, even came to the show. So like, kudos to you. And I just remember how excited I was to have that first match back. And it was such like an awesome, like, I remember all the fans were cheering at the end and they like were saying, you still got it at the end. And like, it made me feel really like happy and like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, like that feeling where, like, I almost died that day, and I was like, no, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I was meant to do. So I was really excited that night. That was my first match back. And then after that, I was like, I could do anything now. So the sky's the limit. So I remember actually got to wrestle for Mission Pro Wrestling for Thunder Rosa's promotion in Texas.
Really? I didn't know this. Okay.
That was during that time in the summer. She's amazing, Thunder Rosa.
Yeah, before you, let me just interject. Did you learn anything from her? Because I think she's amazing.
Yeah, Thunder Rosa is amazing. I absolutely admire her so much. She has done so much for like women's wrestling, like with having her wrestling promotion there, and just like she's always looking out for others. And for me personally, she's the one that reached out to me. Actually, she needed an opponent when they were at the Arthur Ashe Stadium for AEW's first big show. It was the Dynamite Grand Slam at the Arthur Ashe Stadium in 2021, and I was her opponent that night. And she asked me, personally, and that was a huge deal for me because I've never ever had that opportunity or in that environment in front of 20,000 people there, and it was just like surreal. And it was like I was like in a real life movie, but it was actually real life. And like, so she's amazing. I can't say enough good things about Thunder Rosa, and I'm happy that she's back actually because I know she took some time off and from her injury, and now she's back. So
that appearance, right, coincided with the WWE thing.
That was later. Yeah, that was later. That was back. So that was my debut at AEW, and then I had a few dark matches there for AEW. Riho, I got to wrestle before that, and then the night that you were talking about was in February 2022, and that was my first time working for WWE for extra work, and it happened to be SmackDown. I had a segment with the Los Lotharios. They had this kiss cam, and I got to be the kiss cam girl that night or whatever they were doing. and then later on that night, AEW had Rampage, and I wrestled Serena Deeb that night, and it was the first night to have AEW and WWE on the same night, which was surreal because I remember that my phone was blowing up and everyone was like, did she just pull a Rick Rude from back, when he was on Monday Night Raw and Nitro? And I was like, first of all, like because I grew up watching WCW, and I was a huge WCW fan, and just like to even have like that compared, I was just like, wow, that's amazing. But I just remember waking up the next day, I was just like, my phone like blew up, and I was just like, wow, super surreal, I'll never forget that night.
But you must be doing something right because those are two of the very best right now.
Oh yeah,
that you got in the ring with. So obviously they think highly of you.
Yeah, I mean, I've both companies, WWE and AEW, like they've both been amazing to me, and they've both been, super supportive. Like whenever, whenever there's an opportunity, I'm always eager, whenever they need me. So the goal, I mean, is since I was a kid was to be in WWE, but if AEW asked or anything, I wouldn't say no or anything. So like, know, but I love I'm super grateful for all the opportunities that I've had so far, because for me to come back after 14 years and then have that, it's like to have those experiences and opportunities, like, because I'm a go-getter. So like that for me, like I'll travel, I'll go wherever an opportunity is. So I don't know. I just feel like, because it's like I've been so passionate about it since I was a kid. So like I won't say no to an opportunity if I have to drive 6, 7, 8 hours to go. And I feel like they see that, like WWE and AEW and those guys there. And the locker rooms are both awesome. Like the people there are just amazing.
Well, I'm going to give you a compliment. You
Yeah.
are one of the things that's bothered me about AEW, and I'm not criticizing the organization, but they have a
Yeah.
tendency to sign when they started. They would
Yeah.
sign a lot of young talent and that
Yeah.
made they cut their teeth in the indies, right?
Uh-huh.
And they would bring them in with the same stuff, the same name, the same whatever
Mhm.
gimmick they had. They
Yeah.
throw it right on TNT and TBS, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes that doesn't work. But
Right.
with you, I hope nobody ever changes you. I think
Oh,
the
yeah.
Kayla
I think
Sparks
so.
thing is perfect.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's your aura. That's who you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah,
And I
it
think,
is.
and I
Yeah.
can't imagine you being, or, someone else.
A
I mean,
character,
it's
yeah.
perfect just the way it is.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. That's a huge compliment. Thank you, Bob. That's been me since day one. Kayla Sparks was my name, and I came up with the, Sparks, and it actually works because I love just like, you could just say anything like Sparks. That's my finisher. Sparks will fly is like my
Hmm.
tornado DDT off the top rope, and just like, yeah, I mean, I'm me. This is who I am, and like, I hope that I mean, the fans can see that, or like in the locker room too. Like if your personality matches up with like
Yeah.
your who you are and your work ethic and all that and how you treat people and stuff. So like this is how I am, and like I'm always
Yeah.
smiling, and I'm just like always trying to be positive. So like it's hard for me to if I ever had to be a bad guy.
I'll put
It's
it
been
this way:
rare.
WWE, please sign her, but don't make her one of the Wyatt
Oh,
Six.
thanks, Bob.
It doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah, right. I know it.
It just wouldn't. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. So I noticed you had a title. I've been scouring your
Yes,
video
yeah,
collection on YouTube, and I
yeah.
see you all over the place. And you actually had a championship at one point, right?
I did. So when I came back, actually, it was March 2022. It was at Immortal Championship Wrestling, and it was my debut match there. And they had the vacant women's title at the time, and I won the title, and it was surreal for me because I'll never forget it. It's on my YouTube. You guys can check it out. But it was against
Hmm.
Karen Bam Bam, and all my friends and family were there. It was in my hometown in Schenectady. So it was super special for me, and it was like my first match there at Immortal Championship Wrestling. And they ended up surprising me one night because I held the title I was like I guess like in their during the time that they have an Immortal Wrestling, I was the longest reigning like women's champion there. Like I had it for like 2 years almost of the belt. And then they ended up making like a pink belt for me, which was cool because pink's my favorite color. So I was like, that was awesome. I remember when they surprised me, and like, but yeah, so I wrestled like some of the top female talents, like in the independent wrestling, like, Trish Adora, she's amazing. Serena Deeb, I got to wrestle her again at Immortal Wrestling. Just all the amazing talent I got to wrestle. It's been awesome. And they're no longer around, but I did. And then later on that week that I won that belt, I remember the following week I went to Capital Championship Wrestling. That was an all women's wrestling promotion. I don't think it's around anymore, but I was their first ever like title match network champion. So that was cool.
Wow. Okay, great. So you've been busy,
Yes.
which is really cool. And you're opening my eyes to all the indies that are out there because, when I left
Yeah.
the scene, I have to kind of relearn what's going on, like in
Oh
upstate New
yeah.
York, down here in Brooklyn and New Jersey and all the places
Yeah.
down here. It seems to be a pretty thriving. Well, there's a lot of indie organizations. I don't know how well they're doing, but there's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Do they treat you fairly in an indie these days? Or I worry that
Yeah.
people spend their whole lives learning their craft because I have a lot of respect for wrestlers. I think they're the greatest athletes. But I see people driving 5 states to make $50, right?
Yeah.
So is it hard to be an independent wrestler in the upstate New York scene at this point?
I think for me, because I've seen it from when it was really hard back then, like, in the early 2000s where I would be lucky if I made $5 that night or anything. Like I was just, because I was so young and I was so eager, I didn't care, if I got paid or not. I was just happy to like, have the exposure and stuff like that. But now that I'm older, I do see that actually I think wrestling, just the dynamic of it has changed so much. I think for independent wrestling, I think, and it's more in a positive light. Like I feel like between the promoters and the locker room, it's been very positive so far. Like the places that I've wrestled for, Because I'm very picky about where I go, because you do, like you said, like there are some shady wrestling promotions that don't care about the talent. They're just there to make a buck. I don't know, just like saying, and just in general. But I feel like that's always been how it was. There's going to be some bad apples in the bunch, but I'm always looking out for like the good, like, because that's also too, like once you build your rapport and you start networking and stuff like that, there's, you talk to the wrestlers and say like, is this a good promotion to work for? And they'll say yes or no. And that's kind of like how I word of mouth, kind of like, this place is like, I'll always be the first one to say, yeah, this promoter or this wrestling promotion is great. They treat, the fans awesome. They treat their locker room awesome. So like, those are the places where I like to go, where, and they draw a house, you know what I mean? So, and it's all, I feel like it all, for me, what I've always wanted to do when I came back to wrestling, especially now with the social media, it's so easy now that at your fingertips, wrestlers, I feel like, have to play a role. It's not just the wrestling promoter, but the wrestlers themselves. Like I'm always the first one to promote the shows on blast, like everywhere on social media, because it is your responsibility as a wrestler. Like you want to get, tickets and fans to come, and like, and just always like, I feel like the effort is important. And also, to promote the show, you want to do, your promo videos and stuff like that to hype up the matches. So I think that's important too, like that the wrestlers, the good promotions where it's all around, like the wrestling promoters are positive and the wrestlers are actually putting in the effort, like doing the videos, promoting and stuff like that. So it goes full circle.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And it social media, I don't care what you do, social media is big.
Yeah.
I promote this show basically on social media. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the most effective way to get the word out.
Yeah, for sure.
And somehow I have something like 15,000 Twitter followers.
Wow. That's
but that
a lot. Wow.
But here's the deal though.
Good for you.
I was a musician. It came from the music stuff.
Right. Oh,
so
wow.
when I segued back, and when I left wrestling, I went on the road with a blues band for about 15 years. But when I came back and went back into the wrestling, I retained all those followers. So now I'm gaining people through what used to be Twitter. Now they call it X, I guess. But,
I know, yeah.
But here's I want to say this after watching you. I'm impressed that you can, like you said, the top rope stuff. You're good on the ropes, but what impresses me even more is that you're good on the mat. You're good low. You're good low in the ring, and not a lot of wrestlers do that anymore. It's kind of old fashioned, but I like it. It's like that means you can mix it up no matter who your opponent is and adjust your match to what the opponent is doing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because I was trained old school. Like I that's what I loved. That's how I was trained. And actually, more recently, I've been training with Mike Hollow. He has a school in New Hampshire, Concord, New Hampshire. Him and Scott Reed, and it's called Elite Pro Wrestling Training Center. I love those guys so much. The facility is like, it's perfect. It has like everything it has like they have like 2-3 rings there. It's like, it's pretty much set up how the PC is in Florida for WWE, and it's amazing there. And so Mike Hollow was actually trained by Killer Kowalski. So he's also very old school, and I love that. I love because that's how I was trained originally. So for me, it's because for me, it's how do you interact with the fans is how your presence and everything. Like he really pays attention to like all the small details. Like it's all about the little things, because it's true. It is. It's like you don't have to do all these high flying crazy moves. Like how, you know what I mean? Just to get over to, get the fans, behind you and stuff like that. So that's what I really enjoy when I get to train there. And actually, speaking of, just recently they announced the WWE indie wrestling program, which I'm really super excited about. That's awesome.
I saw the photos. That's really great.
Yeah.
Are you going to be part of that?
So actually, bringing it up, their school just got involved. Like there's only a handful of schools, like Cody Rhodes School, I think Seth Rollins School, Booker T School, Mike Hollow School is one of the handful of schools that are affiliated now with that program. So
that's awesome. That's great.
Good. That's great news. So that's, there's never been that like direct line of like, because it's so hard to like just get a tryout or get any opportunity. Like you have to know someone, or like it's just all luck. I feel like to get, there's so much competition now, like for any wrestler, there's so much talent out there. So it's really hard. For me, that's my goal, is to hopefully get, I've never had a tryout, but I've been on WWE like television, like doing the extra work, and I got to have a match. Though I mean, I got to have a match on Monday Night Raw against she was the current WWE Women's Raw champion at the time, Bianca Belair, and Asuka and Alexa Bliss. But that was I'll never forget that night. That actually had a match on Monday Night Raw. So
I have a personal friend who is I guess he just graduated from wrestling school about 3 years ago, and he has a tag team in the Long Island area here.
Okay.
And a while back, I'm watching WWE television, and they had guards. Sometimes they bring the guards out. And he was one of them.
Yes.
And he got smacked in the face by Becky Lynch. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
It's the greatest. And I felt good. A couple of years ago. And I was like, I was so excited for him.
I know. That's how you get your foot in the door. That's how I got, my foot in the door, my first, with the Los Locos Kiss Cam. And then after that, it was the wedding that they had, the ceremony. I don't know if you remember 2 years ago. It was I'm trying to remember Dana Brooke and
okay, with Tazari.
Yes, and R-Truth was that was hilarious. I got to be a part of. So I was actually in the wedding, and then I had a segment. There was like a bachelorette party or something I was a part of before that, but that's all, it's TV time, it's experience, it's awesome. So
you'll be surprised. People like Damian Priest and
all of them got
a lot of things, all done their cameos before they broke through. Every one of them. Yeah, all of them. Just little tiny appearances on the screen.
Yes. I mean, I got to meet, I did a meet and greet recently, and that was so amazing. I got to talk to Lisa Marie, Victoria from WWE.
Oh, yeah.
She actually, I remember when she started out, she was one of Godfather's hoes. So that was
a lot of them were,
Yeah. You have to start somewhere,
True. Now, here's another thing. You were just talking, and you mentioned Kayla looks so young, and she mentions Killer Kowalski, and the look on her face was that she actually knows who that is.
Yes.
You know who Killer Kowalski is?
I actually got to meet him. So when I was
really?
I swear, because so bringing up the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, you're from the area, so you might know. So back, it used to be in Amsterdam, New York.
Right.
And I was there for that. That was a really, really awesome ceremony. It was Killer Kowalski got inducted. It was Mae Young. I think it was Moolah. I think the Fabulous Moolah or Mae Young, which they both were there, but one of them only got inducted. I forget which one, but yeah. And then George the Animal Steel was there. I got to meet Greg the Hammer Valentine. It was all the legend, and I got to meet them all, and I have pictures and everything. But yeah, Killer Kowalski was there, and he got inducted. I got to see him get inducted in the Hall of Fame. It was 2003, I believe, was the year.
Again, Kayla looks like she's 25, and she's going all this way back. I'm like, how is this possible? But
I know. I know my history. I love the history. That's how I know. With Seth being the president of the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, he loves that I know the history and all that and stuff because like I said, I love wrestling. I grew up watching it, so it's it's in my blood at this point. But yeah, it's thank you. That's a compliment. Thanks.
Well, I ask every young wrestler that I meet this: do you ever look at or go back just for your own historical purposes, 70s and 80s stuff?
Yeah, a lot of it's lost now because I feel like it's not how it used to be, obviously. But I feel like because a lot of it. And, because I think it's just because times have changed and it's very streamlined now. And I think it's not to say it's in a negative light or anything. It's just that's the way. I mean, now because WWE just signed up with Netflix. So it's more, it's more theatrical. I feel more cinematic WWE. So a lot of it is just more so the cameras, you know what I mean? And
but you know what? Seriously, you call it cinematic, but I think it's more sports-like.
Yeah.
Like they show the wrestlers coming into the arena in their civvies and stuff like that,
sure.
and how they follow the wrestlers from way in the back, outside, all the way through the corridors and out into the arena. That's very sports-like. You see that on baseball games and football games.
I think that. And that might be too, you got a good point, Bob, because I think when they signed with Endure or was it TKO? So I think I did notice the change, that it's more kind of a live setting look, where they follow them from the back or the locker room area or the backstage. I get that vibe.
And the press conferences before WrestleMania this past year, very much like UFC.
Definitely, yeah. I do like that. I think it was a good change for them to do that. Yeah, for
You know
sure.
why I like it? It's not corny. It looks like a sport. I like
Right,
anything
I
that makes
think
it look more like a sport.
yes, and I did, and that also I think like times have changed, so I think the fan dynamic is they're more, they want to see more of like the sports, like like you said, like the UFC style setting.
Well, people like hard-hitting action no matter what you
Yes.
watch.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that will never grow stale, I think.
No.
I think that if it looks like two people having a fight, people will buy a ticket
Yes.
to watch it. You
Yeah,
agree with that?
I do. I absolutely agree. Yeah, I think people are more so they want to have it look more realistic than anything and
Mhm.
less, like you
Okay.
said, less corny.
Okay, so let's talk wrestling psychology because I did this. I had Kimmy Sokol. I had Kimmy Sokol on the show when I first started the
Sounds
program.
familiar, yeah.
She does a lot of the conventions and
Mhm.
assists a lot of the wrestlers.
Yeah.
And I asked her a question. I said, a lot of the old timers like me, we have a tendency to get angry sometimes at anything that gets in the way of the suspension of disbelief in a wrestling
Mhm.
match,
Mhm.
particularly a maneuver such as standing on a top rope for about 45 seconds while people gather on the floor
Yeah.
waiting to catch him as he comes
Oh,
down.
yeah. Yeah.
All right, it telegraphs really fake, and this is a big bone of contention between older wrestling fans and the younger ones. Someone
Mhm.
our ages look at stuff like that. We go, why? Plus, they're
I
going to
know.
hurt each other, and we
Right.
worry that somebody's going to get hurt when they botch a move.
Right.
The overuse of tables, the
Yeah.
overuse of just very dangerous, risky maneuvers. How do you
Mhm.
feel about all that stuff? Yeah, I mean, you can't eliminate it because it's always part of
I know.
how it
Yeah. I
works.
mean,
But
yeah.
go ahead. What do you what do you think? And I don't want to put
I
you in the spot. I don't want
Oh,
you
no,
getting
it's
in
fine.
any
No, it's fine.
trouble.
I
But
love it. I love this is what I love talking about wrestling. I think everyone has different tastes. Like everyone loves there's all different types of wrestling fans. Like some people like hardcore wrestling, some people like old school wrestling, some people like the high flying. Like it's all different, I guess, different flavors, what people like and like what they enjoy. All of it, I feel like at the end of the day, it's all entertainment. And I feel like, but I do agree with the suspension of disbelief, like where things looked. I know when I watch it, like everyone knows that it's like, some things are determined
yeah,
or, but the more that you can make it look like not like that would be great. And like actually make it look like a real fight. Like for me, I don't do all those crazy things. But everyone's different, like different styles, what they do. But I do know what you mean where, you're watching as a fan and you're like, why are they just standing there, like just waiting for them to jump off the top rope or whatever, off a table or whatever. But,
but here's the magic of wrestling, though. I'm 175 years old, and if I watch a good match, I can still get lost in it.
oh yes, yeah,
It's
it's
like
all
watching
about.
a movie.
You're definitely right. Yeah, it's like exactly. I think the storytelling is super important. That's
Hmm.
number one.
And
If
you
you can
you
make the
can tell
fans
us,
believe, yeah,
and you
yeah,
can tell a story in the midst of a match, the
yeah,
physicality of it, or
yes,
how intense it may be, that type of thing.
yeah,
It's a very fine line, but
yeah.
once you ring that bell,
Hmm.
you're golden. Once you
Oh yeah,
have a moment in a match where the fans, you could tell from the fan reaction.
yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And I
the
will
fans
say,
are behind.
one of the things I like about today's fans, I really do, is when they show appreciation for like something they didn't expect to happen to them and they go nuts.
Hmm.
It was
Hmm.
never like that. It was never like that when I was growing up. I mean, that's something
Yeah,
relatively new.
yeah.
I actually like that from today's fans. I think I think it inspires the wrestlers when they hear it.
Oh yeah, for sure. For me, I know, like as a fan and as a wrestler, like that's what gives you, you know, the reason why we do it. Like that's the adrenaline, that's the storytelling. It's like because you want to draw that like sympathy or that, that reaction from fans. Cause I know when I watched it as a fan, like I used to get excited and like I still do get excited like when I watch a match and when you're invested in it,
Hmm.
with so definitely I agree with that.
So I think you're firing on all cylinders right now. I really do. I think this is going to be a good year, and I think 2025 is going to be even better for you.
Well,
So
thank you. I appreciate it.
what do you want to achieve now that you're back, now that you're getting more active, now that things are happening?
Yeah.
Looking at it 10 years from now, what would you like to achieve within that time frame?
So for me, I know I sound like a broken record, but my goal is to hopefully like get signed to WWE. That's my goal. So this year, there's still 2 more months for 2024. So actually, uh, this summer I have a personal trainer. His name's Cesar Bonini. He actually helps a lot of the wrestlers now with their personal training and their fitness and their dieting. So he's been helping me a lot. So I'm getting very serious about, well, I've always taken it serious, but I just want to take it to the next level. And he's been helping me, in the gym, getting back to where I need to be. And so I've been really focused on that and just getting to where getting to that goal of, now that I mentioned about, Elite Pro Wrestling Training Center as part of the WWE program, I'm hopefully, keep going there, keep doing the seminars and the trainings. There's actually a Gabe Sapolsky seminar coming up at the end of the month. I'm excited about. I've done his seminars before, but I don't know if you're familiar with his name. But he's
Oh yeah, I know who Gabe Sapolsky is. Yeah,
yeah, he's been the WWE scout, main person there. So he's a great guy. I've worked with him since I've been doing all the extra work for WWE. So he's amazing. And so I'm just really excited. Whatever opportunities come up, I'm ready. And I'm, 2025, I'm hopefully, fingers crossed. And just I'm really happy with like everything that I've done so far. Like I was saying, like I'm still pinching myself all the opportunities that I've been able to accomplish in that short period of time at all. Like I've never thought I would be able to accomplish those things. Like for me, I think I mentioned it before. Like for me, like the full circle moment was when there was a lot of them, but like the one that sticks out for me is just, being backstage at AEW. And I remember being in the first time I met my favorite wrestler was Sting. And I remember just like having that conversation with him, just saying like, wow, this is full circle for me that I just had a match in the same ring that my childhood favorite wrestler Sting just wrestled in. So like that for me was like, wow, you made it, Kayla. So like just guys, you can do whatever you can now, like whatever you want now. But I'm always in that attitude of like gratitude. I know that sounds corny, but like I'm just always thankful, like whatever opportunity I get, like I could die tomorrow and this is like what I'm happy like doing. So if I get signed, if I don't get signed, I'm happy. But that's my goal is to hopefully, have that dream. I know that's like everyone's dream, but since I was a kid, so that's my goal. And so yeah.
So is it all been sweetness and light? I have talked to a lot of wrestlers over the years, both men wrestlers and women wrestlers. And let's face it, you all work in your underwear. Okay. Yeah. Everybody's, and sex appeal is a big thing in wrestling.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I think it's better now than it was during the Attitude Era, because then it was kind of like a girly show. But now everybody's an athlete. And I think that's very, very healthy. And I think they look at them as athletes, which is great. But my question is this though. Let me get this question in. Has everybody been a gentleman during your period in wrestling? Has anybody been kind of unsavory, or if you had any problems with anything? Because I was speaking with a couple of the lady wrestlers, and they admitted to me that there were some problems along the road.
So back when I started, because I was underage and I was a teenager and I was the only female around, I will say like it was a very family friendly environment, but there was one bad apple in the bunch. There always is one, I guess, but. It's in the past. I had to deal with that. That was a very traumatic time for me because that was scary for me because I won't get into it much, but
no, that's fine. That's fine.
But yeah, there were some bad apples, unfortunately. But I always try to like move forward and try to my best. One time I was in a locker room. This was back 2005, and I was still a teenager at the time, and I remember it was a different. I think it was just different back then. Now it's better. Like it's not how it used to be, but I just feel like, I remember I walked into the locker room. I was nervous, of course, because it was a new locker room. I haven't wrestled there before. And I remember some guy came up to me and he asked, I thought he was joking at first, but he wasn't joking. And I remember he's like, hey babe, can you oil my back or something, baby oil or something like that? And I was like, man. What? And I was underage, so of course there's people next to me like, oh, Kayla, don't listen to him, or like they were sticking up for me. And I remember it got back to the promoter, and I remember, back then it was different. I just feel like, and he had everyone get out of the locker room, and I was like, oh no, what's happening? And he reamed this guy out, and I'm sure that guy remembers it till this day. But I just remember he had him crying, and he was like, he's like, that could be your sister, your daughter, your mom. He's like, your girlfriend, you wouldn't, that's not how you talk to a woman, and you better apologize to her. And I'm laughing, but it wasn't funny then. But like, it's just stuff like that was like eye opening for me as a teenager, and just like, oh my gosh, like as a woman, in the locker room. So like, but I know there's instances where, guys and girls, like I feel like, it's just there's going to be some, comments you got to ignore, some me, I'm just always like, I just let it roll off my shoulders. And that took some time for me actually to do, because as I started so young, and now I'm as an adult, if it were ever to happen to me, I know just to ignore it, and just, that's just how I've always been. But I think it's a lot better now, and it's because of all of the women that paved the way for women's wrestling is what it is today.
And
so
this leads to my next point too.
Yes.
I say this on the show all the time. I think the healthiest thing that's happened to professional wrestling in the last 30 years, and I've been around almost 40, is the emergence of the woman wrestler as an absolute equal to a male wrestler. You are promoted the same. You have as many main events now. It's equal. Your drawing cards. I mean, look at Rhea Ripley. Look at the WWE stars. It happened. You broke through. This is a perfect time for somebody like you to really kind of hit your peak, because sky's the limit now.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's amazing. Like I love, you mentioned Rhea Ripley, and just like I love the fact that women's wrestling. It's not even, and I feel like I shouldn't have to say women's wrestling. It's just pro wrestling now. Like there's no, you don't have to say women's wrestling anymore. It's all equal now, and I love that. I love that. Because it took so long for us to finally get here, and I'm so happy that we paved the way, and now it's awesome now. So that was another thing too. I was so excited to come back to wrestling, because it wasn't like that when I back then, and it was hard just to get a spot for a woman to get a spot on an indie wrestling show. Was like we were like the popcorn match or whatever. We were just like,
like, I know what you're saying. Yeah, the restroom match.
It was like it's like you said, like back in the Attitude Era, even we had the bra and panty matches, we had stuff like that. Like it wasn't taken seriously, and now finally, with all the things that we had to go through, and just like had to pave the way. I mentioned China and stuff like that, but it goes all the women that paved the way. Like we finally did it, and here we are. We're just as equal as the men are. So I love it.
Well, who are some of your favorites? Now, recently I have grown astounded by Tiffany Stratton, of all people, because in the beginning I thought she was just a more shapely Chelsea Green, that girly character.
Yeah.
What an athlete she is.
Oh,
phenomenal.
Yeah.
How do you agree with that? Who are some of your favorites on the scene now?
I mean, there's so much talent. Oh my gosh. Like you mentioned, Rhea Ripley's one of them. She's amazing. Like I love that she's able to hold her own in the ring. And, just as like, she reminds me of like China. Cause like, she's built, and I've met them all, and they've all been so amazing. But Rhea's one of the ones that I really enjoy seeing like backstage and stuff. Cause she just has that smile, backstage, and she knows how to put in the work. And I love that she's so dedicated to what she does. And she's one of those people, like, I feel like in the ring, she knows how to tell a story, whether, if she was in a ring with a guy or a girl, like, it doesn't matter. And she would be awesome if I ever got to have a match with her, for sure. But yeah, for favorites, I mean, for all-time favorites, like Hulk Hogan growing up, like as a kid. And then obviously, China was my favorite. Undertaker has always been my all-time favorite, and Sting. Those are, I know that's I just said the Hardy Boys, of course, too. They inspired me too when they first came out.
You look at their careers now. Both of the Hardys may be the longest lasting pro wrestlers that are on right now,
so
in terms of being in the major leagues. Yeah, it's incredible. Sure. Didn't they start in the early '80s or something like that? I mean, it's been around forever.
And their trampoline. That's also too. I love their story, because they were just like two, North Carolina boys, just like, and the fact that like I grew up watching them and their story. Like they lost their mom at a young age, so they could have like. There's so many like things that happen in people's lives that they wouldn't be able to continue or want to chase their dreams, or because there's things happen in life, and just I love the fact that they always just like were so inspiring, and like the fact that I got to like meet both Matt and Jeff when I was wrestling when they were in AEW, and I got to have those conversations with them, and that was like really awesome to have. So like I love that they've always been go-getters and trendsetters, because they were the Attitude Era. That was what we see now today, like the table, ladders, and chairs matches and all that stuff, which I know it's you don't see them as often as you used to, because which is smart, because I think WWE, with all the chairs and ladders and all that, and the weapons and all that, it's not good. They want to see people have long-lasting careers. So
smart.
Yes.
I want to thank you for being on the show, but we have one more thing to talk about.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
You recently, in fact, just like a few days ago, were literally in, because you're an actress as well as a wrestler.
Yes.
You were in the #1 film in America.
I know.
Tell us about you had a I guess a cameo, or you were literally seen in the movie Smile 2, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I know. We were just talking about that. I'm still pinching myself that it's the #1 movie in America from Paramount Pictures. What do you know? And so for me, that was full circle, because I grew up, the area, MVP Arena. It used to be the Times Union Center, and then it used to be Pepsi Arena, and then it used to be the Knickerbocker Arena. They actually filmed local here in Schenectady, Albany area. It was at the MVP Arena, and they filmed Smile 2 there. And of course, I was there, and I had a couple different scenes in the movie. But the main cameo for me is when if you guys listening got to see the movie or not, it's when the main character, Sky Riley, because she's like a pop star in the movie, and she was coming off the stage, and you see me walking past her. I was part of like the crew person, but like you see my face like turn around and like look at her while she's walking down the hallway. But it was full circle for me, because it was at the MVP Arena, and that's where I grew up going to all the WWE shows. That's where my first WWE show was when Stone Cold did the beer truck. That was like the big, back in the Attitude Era, and I was there. I was like, 10 years old. But yeah,
I don't
that's
want to
for
age
me.
myself, but I was at the Knickerbocker when Ric Flair won his first belt.
Yes,
92.
That was at the Royal
91?
Rumble, right? Yeah, 91, 92. Yeah, yep. And they have all that at the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. All that stuff.
And by the way, what a great job! What a great job that Hall of Fame is, huh?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh my gosh, they do such a great job, Seth, Michael, and all the volunteers there. They do such an amazing job, and I love that it's right in our, my hometown over there. So yeah, that was surreal for me, having that cameo in the same arena. What a small world. They could have filmed it anywhere.
Amazing. Who knows?
It's the #1 movie in America, which is awesome. Yay.
Well,
Everyone go check it out if you're listening.
You never know what's going to happen. The Howard Stern movie, Private Parts, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's some apartment scenes. I live in Queens, and there were some apartment scenes that were filmed in my building.
Oh, wow.
In my co-op. I have no idea how they found this or ended up in my very own building.
The site.
We all got to meet him, and it was really cool.
Wow.
So life can
awesome.
get really strange, right? I mean, it's cool.
Like you said, I feel like it's all what you make it. Absolutely. Like there's highs and lows in life, and I just feel like for me, I've always been that person. Like it's whatever you make it, and just it's been amazing. Like I hope I get more opportunities. I definitely want to do more of the acting, but wrestling is #1 for me, so I'm focusing on that first. But yeah. It came up for me when they were filming local, and I said, you know what? Let me just, give it a shot. And, I'm really excited. I'm really happy that I was able to have that, experience. And there was I had a little, just like talking about the acting and stuff. There was another movie that they did called Taking Woodstock. I don't know if you remember. They filmed it actually in New Lebanon, New York, which was not kind of close, I guess, where Woodstock, well, it was originally in Bethel, New York, but the original Woodstock 69, but when they filmed it, it was back in 2007, 2006 or no, 2007 or 8 taking Woodstock, and I had a little cameo in that too. But it was just it was just a random, I was a hippie in it, which was cool for that. But if you ever want to check out that, it was with Dimitri Martin, taking Woodstock, it was called. It was a good movie too.
Right. Yeah. Sounds like you can find it on Netflix or something like that now.
Yeah,
right?
something like that. Yeah, I'm sure.
Amazon
yeah,
Prime or something like that.
Yeah, everything's streaming now, which is cool.
Yeah. Including wrestling, which is a good thing. So anyway, as I said, all those years ago, I did a lot of introducing of wrestlers because I believed in them, and I would go to indie cars and come back to the office and talk to my publisher and go, I want to do this wrestler, that wrestler, and this wrestler. And they usually would let me do whatever I thought was good. So I feel like it's those days again for me, introducing you to people who may not have heard of you before this. And trust me, guys, I was a tastemaker back in the day. So I'm hoping that my skills haven't waned, and I predict really good stuff for you any minute now because, I've seen your work, I've talked to you, and you got what it takes. I don't know what else to say other than I think you've got a really bright future.
Thank you so much, Bob. That really means a lot to me, and I'm so happy that you gave the opportunities for the up and coming people, the female and males that were on your show, back in the day and even now. So I remember I had such a great time getting to talk to you and share stories when we were at the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame event.
Oh boy, let's talk about that a little bit. We had such fun. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Remember we were standing there talking to Justin Race, who's Harley Race's son.
No big deal.
And our mouths were hanging open at the stories he was telling. It was amazing.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I know. We both were glued. We could have been listening
all
night, listening to the story. We probably got a sneak peek to his book that he's writing about his dad's life.
I hope to have him on this podcast soon because wow. And the speech he gave, Harley was inducted to the Hall of Fame that night, and the speech he gave was so heartfelt and so real that it kind of emphasized everything you hoped that Harley Race was if you ever watched him. So I thought it was a tremendous night, and I got to see Tony Atlas again after a bunch of years.
Oh,
and, a couple. Mario Savoldi treated me like I was his long lost son. He was really nice to me, and I want to get him on the show now. So. Yeah. So, it all is, it's nice it's a circle of life, even in wrestling. And my memories are really good ones. So,
no, I love that for you. That's awesome, Bob. That, you mentioned about his speech. One of the things that really stuck out for me was when Justin brought up about his dad and how because for me, it really stuck with me because this is how I always am with everyone. And he said how his dad always took the time, with every fan and said, give them their 5 minutes because people don't think about it. But I always, cause cause we're all fans at the end of the day. And so I love the fact that he said that about his dad, always took the time, even down to his signature. He always made it a point to go the extra mile for every fan that he ever, encountered with. And that was the type of guy that he was. So I love the fact that he brought that up and shared all those stories about his dad, which was really heartfelt. Like you said, it was really nice. That was such a great night.
I'm still a mark because I'm finding out.
I know.
Even in my old age, that there is a truth in wrestling is that the meanest, roughest guys in the ring are the nicest guys outside of it. Have you found that? It's like the worse the villain, the nicer they are in real life. Yes. It's amazing.
Right. I agree. Yeah, 100%.
All of them. I have yet to meet a rule breaker, as we used to call them, that didn't turn out to be a really cool cat. So what can I say?
I know. No, it is. It's true though. It is. Yeah. That's why. It's definitely true though.
Silly. Anyway, folks, from the Capital District of New York State, we welcome Kayla Sparks. Kayla, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. Like I say,
so much,
our hearts are with you. Our hearts are going to be with you now, and we are really looking forward to seeing more from you any day now.
I know. I love the fact that you're from the area too, Bob, and I'm so happy that we got to meet and share stories. And thank you so much for having me on here, and thanks for everyone listening. And it means a lot to me.
You got it. Kayla Sparks, everybody. I hope you enjoyed meeting Kayla Sparks as much as I did. She's really something. A star in the making. I am convinced. I can't say I'm never wrong about these things, but I've been right a lot. Back in the day, I remember giving the first publicity in our magazines to Sid Vicious and Rob Van Dam and Dustin Rhodes. And, well, he was going to be a star either way, but, a lot of people like that. So I'll add her to the list with my fingers crossed that everything works out. Once again, I will mention we're going to have a little vignette at the end of the show as Bob 20 minutes from now moves from the beginning of the show to the end of the show. And if you don't want to hear my goofiness, shut it off. All right. But it's going to be after the closing theme, that Funky Bones song. And we hope you enjoy it nonetheless. Write to us at Gmail, outdatedwrestling at Gmail. Talk about anything you like. Our website is outdatedwrestlinghour.buzzsprout.com, where you can hear all of our shows at the press of a button. I will never Patreon those. They are there for you to hear. Also on that website, you can learn all about the Outdated Wrestling Hour fan club, where for a nominal fee, I'm talking like $3 a month, you can help perpetuate the growth of this show and our sister one, the Outdated Entertainment Hour. And by the way, right now, for you dirty guys out there, we've got, we're looking at exploitation films on the current one, and I think it's one of the best shows we've done. And we have a wrestling connection there, as Brian R. Solomon, who's done a million things in wrestling, is the co-host of that show. We really hope you enjoyed listening to that one. Takes you back to the days of the drive-ins, VHS tapes, you name it. Horror movies, sexy spy thrillers, blaxploitation films, you name it. We go over a lot of stuff on Exploitation Films edition of the Outdated Entertainment Hour, out now. The Outdated Wrestling Hour is a member of the WrestleCopia podcast network. Both the Outdated Wrestling Hour and the Outdated Entertainment Hour productions of Bob Smith Podcasts. Look for me on Facebook. I'm the one singing with BB King. Really proud of that. You can find me on Twitter, Outdated Bob. I think Threads is the same thing. Pretty sure. But Facebook is my main jam. So if you're looking for me, look for me on Facebook. Next week, we're going to have Ray Russell here, the leader of the WrestleCopia podcast network. We'll talk about that and a bunch of other stuff. We had a really great conversation on his show, and I think we're going to follow it up with another good one here. He's a really engaging and entertaining guy, knowledgeable as all heck, and we're going to have some fun. So look for us again next week. So again, thanks for listening. Here comes our theme song. And then some investigative reporting from Bob 20 minutes from now. Don't say I didn't warn you, okay? We'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. right, Bob. You know I'm at my wit's end with you. This better be good. It's my new segment here. It's Bob 20 minutes from now presents Memories of the Greats. Our first look back is Bernard Brutality, all 6'6" and 298 of them. People remember from his 1960s tag team with Baldy McGint. Oh, they had a reign of terror. But, Bernard has passed away a couple decades now, but his wife lives on. Learn all about her here on Memories of the Memories of the Greats. Yes, as hard as it is to believe, we're going to live the life of Bernard Brutality through his wife, lounge singer Esther Kincaid. They kept their marriage a secret until now. Esther's best remembered for her Box Cash magazine, top single number 191 in 1967, My Big Bruiser. Not many people remember it, but here's a clip from it. He's as big as a bear, but he's my boy. He hugs like a bear, but he's my boy. Oh, shockingly enough, the success of that single, I never heard it before, but she continues to tour. She has a giant tour bus, a converted Greyhound with 66 seats on it. Yet there's only 4 members of the band, and she drives the bus at her age. Astounding. Let's talk about the flip side of the single, though. This one was called, After a Night of Passion. I'm warning you, it's R-rated. I'm sore. Oh, God, I'm sore. Ooh. We talked to Esther about what it was like to be married to such a bruiser. Well, the first time I ever met him, he put me in a side headlock. I said, oh, that's nice. I know there's a big disparity in size, but I loved him just the same. In the ring, he was cruel and nasty. But to me and the kids, he was just a big softy. And he supported my singing career the entire time, which I continues to this day in top lounges all over the country. Do I make a living? Well, we'll put it this way. Thank God for Social Security. Oh, that's nice. Today, Esther's life remains a whole mess of long trips on the road for meager payoffs, a couple of drinks, and a smile. But she does it willingly, singing the great torch songs of the past. However, when I talked to the band members in her group, they weren't happy with it at all. In fact, she could be downright as cruel as the big brute ever was. Get a load of this secret tape we smuggled out of her tour bus. I don't care. Get Jimmy in here now. Jimmy, I told you. That wasn't nice. I told you 100 times. One on the beat. You're a bass player. You're supposed to know these things. I don't give a what you think. Your opinion doesn't count. I'm the one paying the bills and paying you. You think this is cheap? I don't think it's cheap. I don't think it's right. You have to play correctly each and every time. Or as God is my witness, I'll throw you off a moving tour bus. Yeah? You don't think I have it in me? Get over here. Get over here, you son of a... You'll never work again. I'm telling you, you'll never work again. And you're ugly. You got a nose like a banana, and your lips look like persimmons. Get out. Get... To this day, Esther lists her influences in music as Gertrude Davis and, of course, drummer Buddy Rich. That's all we have time for now. Oh, that's nice. Just a couple of credits about the ridiculous silliness you just listened to. I wrote the lyrics to the 2 wonderful hit songs, but the background music was played and composed by Kevin MacLeod. You can find him at incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons 3.0 license, and he's been a frequent contributor to the show, and we appreciate his work all the time. So, Kevin MacLeod, wonderful composer and pianist. We hope you had a few yucks. As Ringo Starr says, peace and love brothers and sisters.